Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Corey Rosen, and you are listening to the Story Podcast. Today, I have on a super awesome guest, Miss Ani Mae. Ani Mae is a small-town singer-songwriter. She grew up writing short stories and poems that quickly transform into songwriting. Ani has always held a place in her heart for writing because it is the one place where she can be her most vulnerable. She says, I feel safe to share my feelings and emotions without consequence. It's kind of like magic. You can find Ani Mae and all of her projects on Spotify or Instagram, linked in the description below or above if you're watching Facebook. Ani, how you doing today?
Good. Thank you so much for having me.
Of course. So you mentioned in your bio that you've always kind of been writing short stories and poems, but when did that writing bug or music bug really bite you?
Yeah. I always grew up writing short stories. Like English class was like my favorite class in creative writing. And I quickly got into poetry then. And then, this is just a silly moment, but I remember I was watching one of the Twilight films, and in the end credits is this song, Decode by Paramore. And I remember I just sat there and listened to the song, and then I looked it up immediately on the internet, and I just listened and listened and listened, and read the lyrics, and I was like, I want to write music that makes other people feel like this. And I was probably like 11 or 12 years old at the time. And the songs that I wrote back then will probably never resurface. But yeah, that was kind of like the moment that I knew, like, wow, I really want to pursue music and actually sing and share my music with other people.
So how did you, as an 11-year-old, go about that?
I just wrote a lot. I didn't really play any instruments. I had taken piano lessons when I was young, but I didn't keep up with it. And so there was a piano at my grandmother's house. Um, but really, I would just write. And that's kind of also how the poetry came about, is because here I was with these lyrics, and I was like, I can't put music to this because I don't really know how to play any instruments. And then my lyrics kind of turned into poems, until years later when I finally did get back on the keys.
So what was it like for you to write poems? What were your sources of inspiration? Was it anything particular? Was it just anything under the sun?
Yeah, so poetry was a form of, it was kind of therapeutic for me. I felt always kind of anxious to share what I was feeling growing up. And so that was, my way of sharing it with myself. And so a lot of the inspiration just pulled from what was happening in my life just growing up. And yeah, I'm a very emotional person, probably the most emotional person in my family, my immediate family. And so oftentimes I think I just felt kind of misunderstood. And that was a lot of the draw from my poetry. And then just, all of the misfortunes as a teenager that we go through.
Right, of course. So when did you finally feel confident when did you finally pick up the piano at that point? So 11, you started writing, but you didn't pick up the piano until later.
Not till later. I want to say it was like 2018 or 19. My aunt and uncle, they went and they just like bought an electric piano for me, which was, that's like just a huge blessing in my life. And looking back, really obviously like really jump-started my writing process, because there I am writing music and lyrics. They did that, and then there was a family member, and kind of like a distant relative that I started taking piano lessons with. And so here I am with these weekly piano lessons, I'm just kind of writing music. At this point, I was still, just attending community college, not really sure what I wanted to pursue, because I knew I wanted to do music, but I also knew I wanted to eat dinner at night. And so I, was kind of looking.
The musicians, paradox,
the dilemma,
right? Yeah.
Right, yeah. And so it was maybe like a year later, I found that Millersville had a music program, and in their program, you have to take 2 semesters of keys. And so that's what really, I had my like private lessons, but then jump-starting that, those were more intensive and theory-based. So
Right, so you went to Millersville, and how did that go for you?
it was good. It was a really good experience. It was definitely hard. Their program, regardless if you're studying music ed, audio, or even like a performance major or business. I studied the business side of things. Um, they really, really highlight on being just a well-rounded person in music. And so, I had to take lessons, how to run a live soundboard or how to mix some basic genres of music on like a surface level knowledge. I took 2 semesters of piano. I took 3 semesters of theory. Um, and then obviously my business classes, which was my actual major. But yeah, it was hard because to go from like your brain being completely fried from doing music theory from 8 in the morning until, 9:30 to then stepping into your music business class, learning about, all the laws and things. It was
All the
definitely
other mind melting things
yes,
about music.
exactly. Yeah. It was definitely a lot, and you had to like compartmentalize all your knowledge as to not get overwhelmed. And it was interesting when I came in; they were just in the process of transitioning the program and splitting out more focuses for studies because originally it was just music business technology, like just this blanket thing, and then they split it up. And even now, it's even more split because I think they realized that the students it was a little overwhelming to be doing everything. And so,
Right.
you have a split focus now, which is great.
So, what are some of the things you learned about music business that have really helped you?
Yeah, so I learned the whole process of putting out my own music independently. I really didn't think there was too much to it. Before the specific class that I took that helped me, I had released a single, my first single called Take Care, and I really just released it. And, the producer that I worked with released it through DistroKid, and I did
Mm-hmm.
absolutely nothing else with it. And then I was in my class and I was learning about, royalties and copyright and all these things that I really needed to sign up for if I was ever going to get credit or any type of, income from my music. And so that was something and probably one of the most helpful things because ultimately I do, want to record and write and perform for a living. And so that was one of the most helpful things I learned at Millersville was to really how to release my music, how to register it with the copyright office, things like that, so that everything's in place and nothing gets stolen. So
Yeah, right. And correct me if I'm wrong, but doesn't DistroKid take a lot of that money from you, or is it?
So, there are percentages on there, and the only reason I use DistroKid is because the producer that I work with uses it. But I'm in
Mm.
the process of exploring some other distribution. Because right now I'm under their distribution, and then I'll have my own independent. It'll be under me, so we'll see. I'm honestly not even really sure. So.
All I know is that DistroKid, if you're a beginner in music, it's probably the best way to go if you want to get your
Because it's just
music
so
published. It's so
yes,
easy.
it's so easy
Yeah.
and it's really not. It's so self-explanatory. Um, and that was the goal at the time was I just wanted my music out there. I wanted to be able to say you can stream me on Spotify, you can stream me on Deezer, so
And at that point, if you're on Spotify and Apple, you're not making any money off your
yeah.
music anyway.
Right, I know. It's really just for your music to be heard and Spotify and Apple are like the biggest streaming platforms anyway, so
Absolutely. And if you
yeah.
want to make real money, it's where you get to talking about doing your own copyright, getting out to
Mhm.
movies or commercials or stuff like that. So is that
Right.
kind of where you want to go into, or?
So I have an interest in like I would love to write a song for like a TV show or a
Mm,
movie. I think that that's such a neat challenge because that's not just like what do I want to write today? It's like here's this whole, piece of
person.
art that someone crafted, wrote, spent, however long on and they're like write a song for this and that like that would be that's awesome. That's something that I really want to explore. It's a challenge.
It is a challenge,
Yeah.
and it helps create a flow for it
Yes,
to be a
for
challenge.
sure. Hmm.
So how many? Correct me if I'm wrong, but you're also working on an album right now, is it?
So I'm working on an EP.
EP, yeah.
And it's very low key, not something that I'm really like. I mean, I'm happy to share it, but it's not something I'm really
Like pushing.
pushing right now. Just because I am in early stages. Mostly everything's written, but I'm still figuring out like who I want to work with producer wise, what musicians I want on the EP, and so it's a planning process right now.
So tell me a little bit about that, because I know you do all sorts of genres, and you mix a little bit of genres everywhere. You do a little bit of funk, a little bit of jazz, R&B, etc., etc. What is
Yeah.
that planning process for this EP?
Yeah, so the EP, well, first let me touch on this. So I generally, I'm a singer-songwriter, and the music I write, whether it's on piano, now guitar, I'm learning guitar, I really try to keep it in its original form and then just add to it from there. I'm a very, like, real instruments type of person, but as you can see, like, on my music that's out, I've definitely explored some other genres with some other artists, which is always fun. But for this EP, it definitely will, sound more like at 23 and Take Care, very singer-songwriter, and then addition of instruments as it goes. And so that's what the EP is going to sound like, which I'm really excited for. I'm definitely more prone to write sad music than anything else, a little slower, kind of like under 100 BPM most of the time, so...
So tell me a little bit about Take Care, which was one of the first ones that you released.
Yes, it was my first single.
Tell me a little bit about it.
Yeah, so that song has an interesting story that is easier to tell now because it dates back to like 2018, so
Right.
forever ago, basically. The song is basically about, I was in my first relationship and they had cheated on me, and I remember I was out with my friends and I found something out, and I was like out on this porch and I was on the phone with my friend and I was like, I'm so upset about this. And she was like, I'm so sorry, but you should really write down like what you're saying to me because they're great song lyrics. So I like took out my phone and was just like typing them in my notes. And at this point I was really just getting started on the piano, right? So it wasn't so immediate to me that if I had some lyrics, I could just start playing some chord progressions and play around. And so I remember I sent them to a friend at the time and was like, these are the lyrics I came up with, whatever. And so she sent me a video back, and and I had a melody too. And she was singing in my song, but had added some chords. And I was like, wow, like, I really, really love this. And so I remember I spent the rest of the summer just really kind of figuring out how I wanted the song to go, finishing the song because all the lyrics weren't written at that point. And then I went into the studio with this guy. His name's Fritz Schaefer. He's a producer from Reading, Pennsylvania. And he works out of his studio called Pagoda City. And I had known him because at the time I was working on managing a friend's album. And so I reached out to him and said, would you want to, just go into the studio, see what we can do with the song? And I remember originally we did, and then it kind of took like a little break because the song wasn't really where I wanted it to be music-wise. I wanted some elements in there that just were missing, and I definitely didn't want to just release a song for the sake of releasing a song, which I'm sure you know how that is. But It's so hard to sit on a song, because you're so excited. Yep. But I'm so glad that I did because the way that the song turned out was just really, really beautiful. And I'm just so proud of that song. And it's so, it's just therapeutic to listen to because I listen to it now and I can listen to it and I attach like those good memories of recording my first single and putting out my first song, and all of the negative associated memories are kind of gone from that. And so, yeah, I really like that song of mine.
So let's take a listen to it. We have it lined up. This is Ani Mae's Take Care.
Take care of myself. I call you. You don't answer, I care for myself. Call you once I've crossed the line. Call you twice, warm love turned to cold ice. From the drink in my head to the drugs in my system, programmed to only call you when I'm mad. take care of myself. I call you. Said I miss you, can I see you this weekend? And you said, right, at 1:45 a.m. So I took care of myself. I called you, you didn't answer, I cared for myself. So I wiped my face and I dried my tears, said goodbye to the pain and farewell to my dear.
And that was Take Care by Ani Mae. And so that was your first release. What are some of the things that you learned a lot about during this? Because it took a while. It's a whole 2 years for you to get it out.
It was a process.
What were some of the things that you really learned about yourself as a musician, yourself as a producer, I guess, on this, and then yourself as a business woman?
Yeah. So for myself, I think I learned that when I'm writing a song, I need and have inspiration, the song needs to be finished within like 3 days, or I'm not finishing the song. Like, that's just a rule of thumb for me. I wish it wasn't true, but
like lyric wise,
I always start with lyrics. And I just I'll be inspired and I'll write a chorus or maybe something that's a verse or just a section of a song, right? And then it's like 2 days later, I'm like over it and I'm fine. But then I don't find my way back to the song, and that's kind of what happened with Take Care. I think it was maybe like verse 1 or some. One of the verses came like really organically to me. And then I kind of walked away from it. And when I went to finish it, it was like I had to put myself back in that emotional space that I was in. And it was hard, you know, and I don't nobody likes to go through something, get over it, and then
go back
it's
into
weird.
it.
Yeah, to even do that's such a weird thing to do, that obviously a lot of musicians and songwriters and anybody with any art form that draws from their own personal experiences does. But I'd rather not. So I need to, when I write a song, I need to write it and finish it. So that was one thing I learned, and that I use now. I really do try, if I am writing a song, to stay in that space as long as I can so that I can get to the end and then start to get over it if it was something, upsetting. As a producer, I learned that I just work so well with people, and I love working with all different kinds of people. I love showing someone something, like a musician something, and asking, their opinion on it, what they hear. I love that. I was nervous that, because it's your song, your music, I was nervous that when I went in, I'd be like, I don't want to hear anybody's opinion. I just want to do what I want to do. And I learned that I'm the complete opposite. I'm do you hear a piano part here? Do you hear other keys here? I love to hear other people's opinions. And as long as it's an open conversation and we're open to knowing these are all ideas, let's be sensitive to those, but also ultimately respect the fact that, this is my song, maybe I won't like that. And that's been my experience, and it's been really awesome. Like I love working with people. It's honestly probably the most exciting part to me of writing the song. Like I write it by myself, the foundation of the song. But then when we really get to like the bits and pieces and the nitty gritty, I love having the other musicians that I'm working with, or I've only worked with Jay so far as a producer, having his opinion too. So
Sweet. So, and you've released a few others since then.
So I released Take Care, and then I released At 23, and those are like my two singles that I've released. Anything else, there's like 2 or 3 other songs on there, are basically just features with other artists that I worked with. So
We'll get to the features in a second, but I want to hear about At 23.
yeah, so At 23 was a song that when I drew inspiration from it, I wrote it really quickly. Like that song was written, I think I started on it in the evening and finished it the next day, lyrics all the way through. And it was the kind of thing where, I don't know if you're familiar with Taylor Swift's All Too Well 10-minute version, but it's a song where it's like she had written so many verses that she had to cut it down to like 3-minute song, right? Well, that was kind of my experience with That 23. And so basically back in 2021, I just had some health issues come up that were kind of scary. And for a while, the doctors thought that everything was pointing to cancer, but they couldn't get an answer. That rhymed weirdly. And it was scary, because you never know with that. Some illnesses like that are, terminal, so you don't know. And so, but I felt because I didn't have a diagnosis, I felt kind of like silly being like, oh, I'm so scared. Like, what if I'm going to die? I don't know. And so when I wrote this song, it was kind of like, this is everything I'm feeling right now, and I'm really scared. But I'm just every day trying to get through this. And luckily, that was maybe like a year and a half long process. It turned out not to be cancer, which thank God, I'm really thankful. And since then, I've been able to just receive proper treatment and figuring out, my health. And it's still a journey that I'm on, but it's a lot less scary and it's a lot less intensive. It was hard. It was like my senior year of college. I was in and out of surgeries, and it was
not to mention
the
scary, whole thing that happened.
Right, exactly. Yeah. So the thing that shall not be named. Was just like, it was a lot. But At 23, it's just, that song just means everything to me. And what was really cool is I chose to release that song on the day of, it was one of the surgeries where they would actually find out if, there was some type of cancer or something in my body. And so I released that, and then that way, when I woke up from surgery, regardless of what they found, at least I would wake up and I'd be like, I released a song, like a song is out, And
There's
luckily it was, yes, and it was a win-win because there was no cancer, and I released a song. And so it was great, and I got just an overwhelming amount of support from just family and friends because the song was so personal, so.
Well, let's check it out. This is At 23 by Ani Mae.
Yeah.
These sad love songs, they don't do it for me anymore. I miss certain parts of me, not someone else anymore. And I found hope in my own arms, and now they're filled with scars. And bandages, doctor's in the hallway, and I can hear him say, does she wanna have babies? Will she be okay? It's probably nothing, it could be something. It's a lot bigger than we thought. We need to schedule now to get this out. She's so young, how could it be at 23? This is a life of uncertainty, and certainly I'm grateful for it, and I wouldn't change it, even if I could. A life God created, eternity just for me at 23.
And that was Ani Mae's at 23. So you talked a little bit about featuring on other people's stuff. What was that like for you? How did you even find that opportunity, and what was that like?
Yeah, so my first feature was with a musician named Hunter McNally, and we recorded our song called Space, which is out everywhere. And that was a very interesting experience because we met like the beginning of the year of 2020, and then we decided we were talking about writing a song together the end of February 2020. And as you know, like 2 weeks later, the whole world shuts down, no one can see anyone, and so here we are with like this written song, but we have no way to be together to record it. And also, like, this at this point, this is my second semester at Millersville. I have like a USB microphone, like no interface. Like I don't have anything to record anything. And so
In the beginning, and you're broke.
yes, all right. Like I'm like, and it's not like I could go to a studio anyway.
Right.
And so I remember me and Hunter, we would FaceTime and we would, talk through the music of the song, how we wanted it to be. And then the plan originally was, because we thought this would be over in 2 weeks, turned into 2 years, to just wait it out and then record it together because he had equipment that we could do, or like record it at school or whatever because there's a studio there. But then it obviously wasn't like that. 2 weeks turned into a month to 6 months to whatever. And so, but before, we maybe waited like 2 weeks. And I remember Hunter was like, listen, like, if you just have a mic, at that point I had Logic because I needed it for school, and can just record. He's like, I'll send you some instrumental to sing to or whatever. But if you can just record these vocal parts for me, it's okay. Like, we can mix it and we'll make it sound good. Because I was like, I don't have the equipment.
Right.
I don't know how to do this, And so I did that. And I recorded it at home. And I figured out how to separate the stems from the project and sent them to him. And yeah, that's how we made the song. It's just virtually. And that was like my first ever presence on the internet of my name being out there attached to a song, was this feature I did with Hunter. And yeah, so that was a really cool experience for me.
So where did the second one come out of?
So that was with my friend. His name is Brady Spangler, but his artist name is Birds. It's Byrds. And he makes a lot of like electronic pop music, and I love pop music so much. But I didn't I didn't write pop music. It wasn't the kind of music where like I was like gonna release, I don't know, maybe one day, but at the time release like a pop project, you know. But I remember him asking me if I wanted to do a song with him, and I remember being like, I don't really make music like that. Like, I don't think so. And then he asked me again because Brady is persistent. And so where he was living at the time, he had just like a studio set up. And so I remember I went over there, and that was really different for me because that was like sitting in a room with the artist and writing the lyrics. How it was with Space, that was a song of two people back and forth about a relationship. So I wrote my parts, you know, like there was no like writing it with, you know, Hunter. And so that was an experience for me. And I quickly realized that trying to write a song or lyrics with someone is just so intimate and intimidating. And that took like a couple sessions for us to get those lyrics because I just remember the first one or two, it was so hard for me to like open up or throw out a lyric idea. And like the idea of it being shot down is so like, oh, like, but you quickly get over that. And so,
Right, of course.
Yeah, that's what happened there. And it was neat because a lot of the basis of that song, it was like just some held out piano chords, which works so well for me. Like that's the best thing for me to write to. It would have been hard if it was like a beat or something. I just can't. So, we wrote everything. Then Brady built the rest of the song, produced the rest of the song, and then I came back to record the vocals for that. And that song's called Rewind. And I did another feature with him and Kiana Corley, who lives in LA now, pursuing music.
That's what I say. I just had her mother on the other day, Maria.
No way.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's really neat. Yeah, she's a singer too, and Kiana's super talented. But they had this song together called Drive Through, and they wanted like another feature, and so I just kind of helped like put some of the lyrics together of the verse that I'm on, and then I just recorded that vocal part, and then that came out on one of Brady's EPs.
So, is that something you want to go down the route of more of collaboration and stuff like that, or?
Yes, yeah, absolutely. I love collaborating now that I got over the hump or the hunch of like being scared to write with people. Now I can't wait, you know. And there's a couple people that I've been talking with that are some local musicians about collaborating with that I'm very excited to delve into that journey. Not yet, just because nothing is final. Right. So.
Because I was going to say I might know a few.
Yeah, no, you would absolutely know.
So also you want to so while you're doing the collaborations, you also kind of want to pursue artist management.
Yeah.
That's kind of what you went to college for a little bit.
Yes, yeah. So when I started at Millersville, I was pretty dedicated to the idea of managing artists. That was my focus. There's obviously so many jobs in the industry that makes it run. But to me, that was like the dream, to manage artists and then pursue music on the side. And I remember I was taking this music business class, and I learned really quickly that contractually, it's a huge conflict of interest to be an artist manager, but then also be an artist yourself. Because there's something in a lot of like contracts when you manage artists, and it's basically about like you'll do everything in your power to make sure that they get the opportunities that they need, and it's like this good faith clause, right? And so it's the idea that, say that there's an artist that I was managing, I didn't really know them, we developed the relationship through us working together, and I was also pursuing my own music on the side. There could be the opportunity for them to view me pursuing music on the side and taking opportunities for myself as me taking away opportunities that were fit for them. Yeah. And it makes sense. It really does. But my dreams of being an artist manager were really like crushed at that point. And I learned so much in school, don't get me wrong, but I really spent so much time just exploring the other jobs in the industry and things I would want to do. but nothing ever quite landed like artist management did. There was at a time an artist that I managed for a while. I managed two projects for them. It was their debut album and then an EP. And I loved the whole process of that. But ever since then, I hadn't really done anything with it. And so I do have some friends in a band that, things are kind of picking up and it's a lot of work. And so nothing super final yet, but I'm hoping that that's an opportunity where I can explore, managing a band or an artist because I already have a relationship with them. Mm-hmm. They know that I wouldn't be slimy and take the opportunities from them. So
what is it like to manage a project or an album? I've never heard that kind of side of the business before. Mm-hmm. So what all goes into that?
Yeah. So a lot of it is really just taking so for the artist, obviously they're recording an album that's like an emotionally draining, physically draining in every way type of process can be at times. And so just to take anything that has to do with the process of recording the album and taking that on yourself so that they can just like come to the studio, sing, play, and leave, right? And so even when we were in the studio, it even came down to like if there was, we were listening to a take of something and it was like, you get like listener's ear and everything sounds the same. If it was just me, and even like the artist would step out and it's like, okay, like I'll come into, the studio with the producer and we'll listen to this. It's hard to explain because it's so specific to the artist and depending on the level, which obviously I was just doing it independently. It's not something where I was getting paid or something. It was just something that I was trying to do for experience. Or even just, getting pictures in the studio for promo or looking up venues for them to perform at or finding musicians to come and play on their projects for the part that they wrote. Just different things like that are a lot of the work that goes into making an album that could kind of alleviate pressure for them. I remember one thing we did was they wanted a choir on their one song. And so and it was like my first year at Millersville and I was in choir. And so I got a ton of my choir people together and we got a date set and it was like the last Saturday before everybody went home for break. And so it was like very vital, and we all gathered and it was me, the artist, the producer, and another producer working on the project. And we, drove down to Millersville. They let us use the dance studio and we just recorded their, choir part right there. Took everything back and it was a really beautiful project. And, but even just down to like coordinating that, and buying all the singers donuts, like that was right. Just my job. And I loved every part of it because just to be instrumental in anything that has to do with music when you're in love with music is rewarding, so.
I always love using that pun.
Yeah.
Being instrumental.
I did not even think about it that way, but
I always saying that because it's always funny to me.
Yeah.
And I'm a man of puns. So, you're kind of looking into the future. The world has opened up again. You're getting a lot of opportunities from a lot of places. You're working at Mickey's Black Box. What has that been like? A lot of cool people come through there.
Yeah, so it's really cool there. I really just had reached out to them at the end of last summer. I had been interning at TELUS 360, and I was looking, for somewhere to work in music. And they just had some part-time positions open, which with music, it doesn't matter what part you're working in, you're going to meet people, you're going to advance. And so it was just like this box office ticket selling position. So I took that in like September of last year, right? And then as I started working there more, it was like, hey, are you interested in, drafting some posts for our social media or learning how to input dates on the back end of our website? Or like, here, Ani, like, why don't you take over the phone calls? And through that, I just got to meet obviously a lot of musicians coming in there, which is great, a lot of local connections, but also a lot of industry professionals because, Mickey's Black Box is on the campus of Rockleditz. Which, houses, Tate, Claire Brothers, Atomic, just all these different companies that are so important in the industry.
Avengers of the sound industry.
Yes, I always call it like the ultimate shopping mall for artists because they come and plan their tour there and get all their equipment and whatever.
It's
and so,
incredible.
Yeah, it's just this big, and it's crazy that the operations are only started like 7-8 years ago.
And it's still kind of a secret.
No, it really is. People don't realize, when Ariana Grande is at Whole Foods in Lancaster.
That's why. Or when Justin Bieber came to Waffle House in Pennsylvania, right. It's because they're there.
I know. Yeah. So, but it's been great. It's been a great experience there. The whole team there is, really awesome. Yeah, I haven't been there for about a month. I had taken, and it's a part-time job, but I had taken off for about a month just due to some family circumstances. But I'll be back there soon, and I'm excited. I met some really, really cool people there. So
that's great. So outside of all of this, musically, you're like you said, you're kind of ramping up production on an EP.
Yes.
What are some of the things that you have yet to do that you want to do within your industry or your craft?
I think that something that I'll always want to do is just, I mentioned earlier that I took piano lessons when I was young, and I wish that's something that I kept with. Because, as a singer, that, like, when I can't accompany myself, it makes it hard to just perform solo. I have to, rely on other people.
And your music gets better when your proficiency at an instrument
right,
gets better.
Exactly. And so that's something that I am pursuing and continue to pursue, just learning piano. And then I just took up guitar about a month ago. And so that's been really helpful, but also helps my writing process so much. Like the more I learn, because I can tell you, in the beginning, it was like all my songs were in the same key. It was very
same chords, same rhythm,
very repetitive. Yep. And you get really bored of that really quickly. But it's really nice to be in such a environment. Like Lancaster City just has this very close knit, but also spread apart music community. And there are just people that are so talented that just inspire me to be a better musician, better performer, better vocalist, pianist, guitar, so.
And they're all accessible.
Yes. Yeah.
Very much so. Which is surprised even me as a person who was kind of like a nobody in this area. Not to say that I'm a nobody now.
Yeah, I was going to say everybody knows you.
So I'm a transplant. I'm not even from here.
I didn't realize that.
Yeah, I've only been in the music scene for a year or so.
Okay.
You wouldn't know that.
I wouldn't, because the reason I even started, knew who you were is because I started coming to open mic. Yeah, last year. And that's how
I'm playing with everybody.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. Mm-hmm. And so, well, I mean, that's another point for artists who want to get out is to play with anybody and everybody you can. I'm a pianist. Granted, I don't market myself as like James Klippel. He's a pianist.
Yeah,
I'm not a James Klippel.
I am also not a James Klippel.
Right. I was kind of like you in the sense of I know if you hand me a chord sheet, I can play that very well. If you look at me to solo, good luck.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah.
But play around and everybody's going out to open mics, especially the one that tell us where a lot of artists come out.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of different artists come out.
But also because it's right down the street from a major hotel, there's always people that you're just meeting there.
There's always a great act that's just from out of state hopping in and tell us for the open mic.
Yeah.
And it's incredible to me. And these local people will have you sit on their sets if they want. But it's always open.
Yeah, it is.
So that's how I got imbued into the system. And then I went around, found out other open mics, found out more people, and then I was like, maybe I should start something about this, and I did.
Yeah, for sure.
And now you wouldn't know that I was, just a lonely, introverted musician who didn't know what to do with his life. And
that is crazy. I really thought you were just here all along.
No, this podcast has only been officially been around for a year.
Okay.
So
yeah, that's awesome though, because look at the growth.
I know. I'm so excited for it. But back to you. Some of the questions I like to ask all my guests. Correct me if I'm wrong, but you are a Christian.
Yes. Yeah.
Where do you find yourself most in tune with God?
Honestly, just I guess like in my prayer life when I'm praying to God, and it's really easy for me to pray when I'm like outdoors in God's creation. I have a couple places near me that I literally can just like park my car and then walk 10 feet and I'm just under a tree, like viewing a huge marsh. The sky's right there.
Chickies Rock?
It's actually Blue Marsh. I'm like
Is
not
it?
yeah, I don't live in the Lancaster area. I live
Oh.
closer like up to Reading area.
I see.
Yeah. And so but yeah, when I'm like in nature, that sounds really silly, but it's true.
I mean, it's true. I mean, if you're gonna go anywhere that's really beautiful, it's got to be nature. Because
Yeah.
going in a city, unless it's cherry blossom season,
Right.
it's not very pretty.
Yeah.
Otherwise.
Yeah.
So, what are some of the you've performed a lot.
Mhm.
What are some of the worst things maybe, or funniest things that's ever happened to you on stage?
I don't know that I've had any recallable experiences that are like me myself, but one thing that a lot of people don't realize because it doesn't exist anymore is I was in a band for a time. I was in a band called Embassy Drive, and it was, Millersville kids that already had a band, but then they had asked me to join as a vocalist. And I don't know. I mean, something crazy that happened with us is that we had booked a show. It was like our first show, and they had never played either in Brooklyn, New York. But then the same span of days, like the next day, we had also booked a recording session with Least of All, if you're familiar, recording the original vinyls. Everybody gets their own copy. And so that was like the most chaotic, like 48 hours of our lives, like, going to Brooklyn, playing this show, staying in our Airbnb, then going to, Least of All and play, how it works is people can purchase a certain song, and we had 4 songs available. And what ended up happening is people purchased basically our song Weather like 28 times over. And so you really are in there for hours just playing your song over and over again to print for these copies for vinyl. And it just was like, it was right around Christmas time, and it was just this really like magical 48 hours. And I think that was another moment in my like music life that just reaffirmed like, wow, like I really want to do this, because it was incredible. I remember getting home and being like, what am I doing with my day? Like I was just running around New York City. And so, yeah, nothing like funny or whatever, but that was like one of the most crazy but awesome experiences I've had, just musician wise.
I was about to say, a lot of the times, some of the worst things are also some of the best things, absolutely. Because I'm sure afterwards you were dead. And you were like,
I lost my voice.
I'm never doing this ever again.
Mm-hmm.
But also, if you called me to do it again next week, I'm there.
I'm there. Literally, I'm there. Yeah, and the same thing happened. So we had done that close to Christmas time, maybe like November-ish. And then I went in February, and I can never get the years right, but I went in February, it's probably last February, to then do my own Least of All session, like an Ani Mae session. And silly me was out at a Taylor Swift night, like the night before, yelling all the lyrics. And normally, like, I'm a talkative, loud person. I don't, like, lose my voice, I lost my voice. And so I was, nursing my voice back to health within the next 12 14 hours to go then sing my song over and over again.
Which is
for hours.
Impossible to nurse your voice that way.
But I mean, I got through it. I think that the takes were decent. Obviously that was a learning experience, but then we recorded, which was great. And then I remember the week after that was the Black Excellence Ball at Millersville, and I was singing an Aretha Franklin song, Challenging. And
yeah, right.
So we drove right back to Lancaster and walked right into a rehearsal for that. And I was like, again, like, I am so exhausted and so tired, but if we had to do this tomorrow, like, I would welcome it with open arms. So
that's awesome.
Yeah.
So that kind of covers a few questions, actually.
Yeah.
What are some of the mistakes that you've seen other artists make, musicians, and coming from a business perspective? What are some of the mistakes that you've seen musicians make, and how can we curb that?
So I think the biggest one goes back to, or the biggest one that I've kind of seen is artists releasing music. It's, I think we write a song, we produce it, we record it, and we're in love with it. And we're just so excited that we want other people to hear it, which is great. I've obviously been there. But then I think that this algorithm of marketing and this suggested time period of marketing your song before it actually comes out that is actually,
Useful.
successful and useful never comes into play. It's like this song out May 19th, Friday, and it's like May 14th. And it's like there's been no time to get any traction, any hype. And of course, your like core listeners, family, friends, supporting musicians are out there listening to your song, sharing your song, of course. But if you gave it that, 4 to 6 week period where, Spotify for Artists has like a built-in process where you can, submit it for playlisting, whatever.
Curation,
Yeah.
stuff like that. Yep.
Reached out to a couple local like radio stations, this kind of thing would be great to go on before the release of anything, I think that would just be so helpful in reaching audiences that don't even know you, but I know it's hard. Like I am the same way. It's so hard for me to sit on anything, but
Well, and also it's also hard because there's two types of musicians. There's the musicians that just want to play music, don't know anything about business, and then there's the musicians that are all business and not a lot of music.
yeah, right, yeah.
Right? So it's absolutely knowing your craft, knowing what goes into the industry, knowing how to get the most out of the industry as possible, especially with algorithms that you can really manipulate to your advantage.
Right. Yeah, for sure. And that's the thing. And like, they're made for that, And honestly, if you look into it, like, they really tell you step by step how to utilize them properly. And obviously, it's a gamble. There's something crazy. This number in the thousands of songs that are uploaded to Spotify every day. You know what
Absolutely,
I mean? Like,
yeah.
it's not, obviously, there's a ton of music out there.
It is one of the best times and the worst times to release music.
Yeah. And that's the thing. But also, even just knowing yourself as a musician, like, even when, like, for me, like, I'm a singer. I write every day. I am trying to get better at the instruments that I play, but I'm also just like a 26-year-old girl that, needs to make my car payments. So like I work a full-time job and a part-time job, and obviously we all have our family and friends and, lives outside of everything. And so for me, it's like music sometimes isn't at the forefront like I want it to be.
That's okay.
But it's a balance,
Yeah. And speaking on sitting on things, have you seen Wicked?
I haven't seen it, but I know
haven't?
like the music.
So that's my favorite musical of all time.
Yeah.
Wicked, I just literally forgot the name, but the composer for that sat on that for 7 years.
Oh, I had no idea. Yeah, that's crazy.
And it shows.
It really does.
It really does. The music is incredible.
Yeah.
One of my favorite all-time composers outside of Elton John. He sat on that for 7 years. And I want to just encourage people, don't be afraid to sit on stuff. Because I know you're right, artists hate to do that. But sometimes that song needs a little bit of sitting on, a little bit of warming up.
Right. But to go along with that, so obviously we have the grandiose world of TikTok, right?
Of course.
And so something that I even get frustrated with as a listener is when a song is sat on for a while, but like a portion of the song is promoted for like a month and a half. That's like a trend right now
Is it
where
really?
you'll make little videos, little clips, maybe like 15 to 20 seconds of just that part of the song. And you love that part because it's so catchy and you can't wait to hear the full song, right? But this goes on for like a month and a half. You don't get to hear the full song. And what ends up happening, I mean, I'll just say it from my perspective. For me, I hear that section so much that I almost like envision what the rest of the song's like. And then when it finally comes out, almost every time I'm disappointed. Or I'm just like sick of the song at that point. And it's like, how do you find that happy medium. And obviously you don't, because everybody's different and this
Right,
is
of
all
course.
subjective. But just kind of finding the balance between like, okay, you've been teasing this song for 2 months. Like, I think it's time to release.
Yeah, there are a few people on TikTok that I really like the approach of because they make a skit out of it. Have you ever seen those kind of TikToks
Mhm.
where it's like, this guy shouldn't be here. He's just a lonely weirdo who has like a carrot whistle,
Uh-huh.
and then he starts playing it, and it's like, oh,
The
okay.
song, yeah.
Yeah, it's a song.
Yeah.
and then
But
it's
they're
like
like
out
bits,
on
they're
Spotify. They're
funny.
bits. They're
Yeah.
hilarious. They're great. I wish artists did more. I wish artists. I mean, we have creative minds. Use that to every advantage, because I know you can envision what you want, like a music video, or like even
Yeah.
you can imagine a bit from a song. Even just listening to the lyrics and just I mean, there's so much you can do. There's literally so much you can do.
There is so much.
You can just write a small acoustic version, or you can just do a little bit of a bit, have it over another video. You can do so many things, and especially with like songs that you don't maybe think are marketable. I don't know. Do you know Ruddy Turnstone at all?
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna rant on Ruddy Turnstone because
Yeah.
I like his songs.
No,
so much.
yeah, I do.
I've been to this dungeon before. Right? Have you heard that song of his?
No, I haven't
It's
specifically.
so good.
Yeah.
And the chorus is, "Oh, I've been to this dungeon before. Oh, it's been a long time, but I've been to this dungeon before." Imagine how many scenarios that lyric could apply to.
Yeah, a lot.
A lot.
A lot.
That could be a sound on TikTok just like that.
Mm-hmm. Right.
If they just used it. If they just
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna hop on Ruddy's case because I believe that song is going places, and it has already gone places.
Right.
But I'm like, use the mediums to your advantage.
Right.
There's not only just Spotify, but you can make a chunk of change on Instagram and TikTok.
No, you can,
you
and I
do it
think
right.
what happens, and I mean, this is even for me. Like I'm on TikTok. I try to use it, whatever. But I think what happens is you pour so much energy into your music, whether that's like a single EP album or whatever. And then you're finally there where you're like, okay, I'm going to release this. And then you release it. And now the music industry's like, okay, now make a video. Now make a TikTok. Now think of things and post your TikToks, at 12 p.m. every 3 days and continue. And you're like, wait, what? Like, I just spent all this time on this music and it's out. Like, can't people just listen to it? And I feel that way sometimes, but then I also realize like that's just not
That's
the age we
marketing.
live. That just doesn't exist. Like it just doesn't. Like if you want to get out there, this is just right now like the way to do it. And it just kind of is what it is.
And the only way you're gonna get your music heard is by grinding it out.
Yeah.
And that's unfortunately the world we live in. But it gives you so much more room to be more creative, because I know some people like find that to be work, but I know other people that don't even know about it, but that would love to do that.
Right. Yes,
Right? So
exactly.
And it all depends on the
The
person. and
mindset kind of
musician.
thing, yeah.
Yeah.
And which, by the way, I just want to say, for anybody listening that goes either way, like, either way is fine.
Yeah,
It's
there
totally
is-
okay.
There is no right way to do it,
Yeah.
because you have your own mission behind, and you decide for yourself what success means.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're looking to get your stuff out there, there is a pretty good way to do that.
Yeah.
And it is by and not only do you can incorporate that addition, like TikToks, Instagrams, whatever, as you're writing the song as well. You can
Yeah.
keep thinking of
For
these
sure.
of these nuggets of bits or
Of ideas.
and
Mhm.
have that track along with your music. So by the end of it, when you're ready to release, you maybe already have all that footage.
Exactly.
And you can just schedule it.
And even with
be done.
older songs, like I have a few friends, songs have been out for a couple of years that blew up because they went and took those same systems and used them. Something that I think is super helpful to me even now is I had to read a book in school, and I can't remember the title of it, but the author was Ari Herstand. Do you know who that is? He's like a huge music industry professional, and he really his success comes from teaching people how to be independent in the music industry. And he is so knowledgeable. He has books, podcasts, everything. And I would encourage people to just really go and look for that knowledge, because it is super useful. And these are actual people, successful people in the industry that have used these tactics that are then, sharing them with us. And
I was going
it's
to say,
great.
we're also talking about TikTok, Instagram. All of these are also search engines
Yeah.
that you can use to figure it out as well.
Right.
It's not like you have to, granted, paying a course would probably do a lot for you.
Yeah.
But I know people are skeptical about that. Times are tough. There are so many videos on YouTube and TikTok that can help you along with this process as well.
Oh my goodness, exactly. I forget what I needed the other day. I was doing something on Logic, which is another endeavor that I'm, slowly learning. I want to know how to make at least a decent demo right now. That's the goal. But I was trying to find something on there, just how to do something. And I immediately tried to call my friend to ask them, but they weren't available. And I just ended up looking it up on YouTube. And I honestly thought I'm just going to swarm through these videos and the answer's not going to be on there. But it's so funny. Even the way I typed in the question, it was like a video for exactly what I needed,
Right.
And I know it sounds like super basic and mundane, like look it up on YouTube, but like actually look it up on YouTube.
Like literally
it's there.
Google it. It's literally there.
It's there.
You wouldn't believe it, but it's there.
Yeah, like if you've had the question, and many people have also had the question. So
we're kind of running out of time. Where can people find you at?
Yeah, so you can find me on Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok. There's like my main. They're all Ani Mae Music, and you can find me on any streaming platform. Yeah.
Don't you have a website, animemusic.com?
I don't. I have a link tree.
Oh, I see. Okay. Well, be sure to check her out there. I have her link tree. I do believe I have a few things of yours linked in the description
there's a couple
below.
links on there.
Just wanted to apologize for the mishap in the beginning, but hey, things happen.
Rolling with the punches.
Rolling with the punches. We do it live here. And that's a blessing and a curse.
Yeah.
But all of that will be uploaded at some point later this week, so we'll get you on that. With all that said, my name is Corey Rose, and this is the Story Podcast, and you can find all of my stuff, my music, productions, everything that I do at CoreyRosenProductions.com. That is CORYROSEN Productions.com. We have a really heavy week this week of podcasts, which I'm really excited to show. We have Debo coming on tomorrow. He is a wonderful... Do you know about Debo?
No.
I was going to say, you would probably like him. He's an all-in-one musician, composer, producer, everything. He does everything to his music. It mixes, mastering, everything. One-man show. And he's a funk dude. He just won CPMA awards recently.
Oh, okay.
Incredible dude and an incredible community worker as well. So we're going to check him out then. Then Tuesday we have the Jess Zimmerman Band coming back on after they just recorded their new album over in Nashville. They had their whole thing in Florida. Really excited to get back into the weeds with Jess and see what she's been up to. And you'll also be able to hear some sneak peeks from her new album coming out too. So
okay.
So be sure to tune in for there, and I'll make sure that we're not muted. Then
learning from our mistakes.
Right. Okay. Right. Of course. That's how you learn, is by making mistakes. And now I'll forever be able checking if we're muted or not. Wednesday we have Matt Friedman. He's a really popular country guy from the Reading area. I'm super excited to talk to him and his journey. He's done the rounds in the country circuit, and I'm really excited to learn what all of that is like. And this Thursday we have Sean Murphy, Mr. Motivation. He is a rapper and the artist. You know Sir Dominic Jordan, sure.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
He's got kind of in that similar vein where he goes to urban school centers and helps the students there get over poverty, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Issues that they have in the urban centers. So I'm really excited to talk to him and get his perspective within that kind of scene. And then next Sunday we have 2 podcasts. We have Darker with Daniel, which is another podcast around here. That is one of that guy runs the CPMA podcast, the Central Pennsylvania Music Podcast. Mm-hmm. So I'm really excited to talk to them, cross-pollinate with them. They were great guys that I got to meet at the CPMAs, and really excited to talk to them. And then we have Aaron Pearson, who runs Anchor's End. Yes, Anchor's End. It's a acoustic metal band,
Ooh.
which you think it's hard to do
Yeah.
acoustically
Yeah.
with an acoustic
I'm
guitar.
interested to see what that sounds like.
So I'm very interested to see what that sounds like as well. So that'll all be posted on social medias. You can find me at CoreyRosenProductions.com if you'd like. And with all that said, I hope you guys have a wonderful rest of your day, and we will see you guys later. Bye.
Bye.